So now we go on to wetland. Wetland, some of you probably heard about it. We'll learn about what are those. In fact, one of your group's members, one of the group is focused on wetland. So this might be more relevant, or at least details they'll get benefit from here. So learn about what's the benefits, how pollutants are removed in wetland, how they all work together. So there is a very nice rap, YouTube rap that you should listen. Somebody made a song out of wetland. I really like that one. Right. So the first question is, how they look. Think of wetland. Wetland means, a land which is basically has some water. So the difference between wetland and any other surface water like rivers or lake is that wetland is very shallow. It's a very shallow land. Surface could be much higher, and so the difference is shallow depth. Okay, so you have a lake. So this is a lake. Let's say this is a pond. We can say size, and then this is river. Wetland, the way it works is very similar to river, but it doesn't have enough that much water. River can be much deeper. It has high capacity, but wetland is a very shallow place where water will, but depth is um, depth is shallow. Shallow compared to any other surface water system, whether it's a lake or pond or river. Wetland has the shallowest depth, and water moves most of the time. It's not stationary, so that's another difference. Lake and pond, water stays there. Wetland, water doesn't stay there. It has to move slowly. Even if slowly, it does move. So here water moves. Wetland also water moves. But the difference is wetland has as I said, a very shallow space. The reason why it is shallow is because you learn that most of the way that pollutants are removed depends on the depth. And as you learn that most of the pollutants are removed and near the sediments. So that means you need to have enough water interact with the sediments. If you have already so much water, then the surface water is not really interacting with sediments. So another case is wetland can remove pollutant by sunlight. For instance, if you have pathogens, they can be inactivated based on sunlight interactions or UV light. So if you have really larger depth, sunlight cannot penetrate to the bottom. So that's another reason. So these are multiple reasons why wetland has shallow surface. Another feature of wetlands is plant. So plants mean the shallow plants. So that's why those plants should not be completely covered with any kind of water. So that's why it has to be shallow. So this is how they look. If you see some places like here on the right side, it looks like it's more deeper, but these are also it's wetland. It's called wetland park because people can at least do all the recreational activities. But natural wetland look more like this on the left side. So it's very shallow, and then these are the 4 examples I just put related to wetland nearby us in Southern California. So what are the benefits? Most of the time, wetlands are natural systems where water moves. So these wetlands naturally remove some pollutants as the water moves through. So there will be water quality improvement because of that reason. This also helps in decreasing the flood intensity, because imagine you have lots of stormwater. Wetland has a lot of capacity to, because it's flat, a lot of larger area, so you can have more water without getting flooding. It cycle nutrients and remove all of pollutants. Because water moves very slowly, so it has some ability to remove nutrients. But nutrients is not, in fact, the main pollutant that can be removed by wetland. We'll get to reason why it is. It is also a passive recreation facilities, means it has other ecosystem benefit. Plants not just plants, different varieties. Also, there are birds, animals. They do get benefit out of it, and we also go there for recreation purpose. It is again, wetlands are everywhere. Natural wetlands are diminishing over time because of urbanization. Most of the wetland surface are now converted to urban areas. So we are losing that benefit. And because of climate change, this wetland also is getting, in fact, affected by processes. So that's why, because natural wetlands are decreasing, one of the main goal is to construct them whenever we need to remove pollutants. So what we are going to learn here is more on constructed wetland, because these are the active treatment system that you design to remove pollutants from stormwater. So constructed wetlands are basically shallow surface water bodies. When I say shallow, that's why it's written less than 2 feet, because most of the plants that you expect to be in the wetlands are not that high. So that's why 2 feet is already a lot. So that's maximum 2 feet. And so two key feature, shallow, number one feature. Number two is slow moving water. That's the key. Because if water moves very fast, it doesn't have enough time for pollutant to be removed. So that's why another feature is slow moving water. And then the third thing is you have lots of plants. Plants can cycle a lot of nutrients. So that's another reason. Plants also remove pollutants. They can remove debris. They can be a physical trap for trash. They can also remove pollutants at their root. They can also help microbes survive in the soil. So wherever there are plants, the soil microbial communities are also very healthy or abundant. They are more abundant. So that's why plants are also the third component of um, your um, wetland. So it's a water tolerant plant because mostly this will be saturated all the time. So that means those plants should survive in those conditions. So this is just a schematic to show. The first is you have receiving water in a pond. There is always a pond begin at the beginning because you want to remove lots of sediments before it enter into the wetland. So that's the sediment trapping mechanism. That's why you have a sedimentation pond. So this is here, okay, just to capture sediments. And then once you capture, it goes to the actual wetland where you have lots of plant. So then next feature is here. As you can see, the depth of the inlet and outlet ponds is little higher, and there is no plants here, no plant. The reason is you have some planted area and some unplanted area, because if you think of sunlight as a way of removing pollutants, you do not want to have plants there. So that's why you have some open channel or open space where there are no plants, and there are space where there are plants. And it is designed specifically to remove pathogens or other pollutants that require sunlight. Some organic pollutants can degrade because of sunlight, so you need that open space. But in the planted area, you remove all other pollutants. And in the planted area, typically it's shallow. That's why you can see the depth here is a lot shallow, and that's written shows here. So this is just one example of how the wetland is constructed. And there are some limitations. You can't install wetland everywhere. First is because of space. Wetland, as you see, to be able to treat lots of water, you need lots of shallow area. Means you have high surface area, means large amount of land with a very small depth of water. So that means you lose that space. So either it is naturally there and you convert that to wetland, or you can't create that wetland unless you have a better way to design it. And in many constructed wetland, what they do is, let's say you have this piece of land. So they do unit process wetland, means they have one system here, they have another system here, They then have another system here. Then they have another system here. So the way it works is you can create different type of systems where, for instance, water comes in here, then it moves. As it moves, it removes a lot of different pollutants, and each unit can be a different. So these are different units. So A, B, C, D, E. So you can say that A is planted, B is open, C is, I'm just throwing a number. Okay, let me write this one. This is deep water. This is, so when I said deep, in the relative, within 2 feet, um, to remove a lot of sediments. Then let's say this is C is a planted area. D is different kind of planted area. So you can decide what different design you need to have. That way it remove very specific type of pollutant. And E is again open area. So we call this one unit process wetland. This is very similar to a wastewater treatment plant, where each treatment unit has certain functions. So this is how things are designed. This is just example. So when you have a space limitation, you design this way so that you at least have less space than a typical wetland require. Another limitation is mosquitoes, because these are open space, and always there is swamp. It's a swamp, basically it's a swampy area, so mosquito can grow there. So that's why another reason, this can be a limitation. But if you are worried about mosquito, you can have very specific type of animals, or or specific type of fish and other things you can put there, which is known as a mosquito control, because they will eat that larva. Limitation is that you can't put in a steep area, because water has to move slowly. So that means if it's really steep, then water can not move slowly. So that's another reason why it is not implemented everywhere. Mostly you see in coastal area, where the land surface is pretty flat. And again, it's called wetland. Wetland means it has to have enough water. So for this to function well, you need to have continuous supply of water throughout the year. So if you don't have that one, you can't have a wetland here. So many wetlands here in Southern California are wastewater based. So that means people either dry weather runoff like Bayona Creek or LA River, or you can have a treated wastewater discharging all that wastewater into that wetland. And the last one is again as a space requirement. We talk about it, and another limitation is that because you put the wetland, it takes a lot of large space. It can also cut off access to different locations. So you can't have a road in between, because you need to have that water connectivity. So if you want to have wetland somewhere, you have to isolate that area to some way. So it's important to have that public access if it's needed. This is just example, which is very local. Here I was giving example of how this is used for removing pollutants, as well as to capture stormwater. So this is one of the biggest wetland in Orange County, where it is designed to treat stormwater. So the group who is working on wetland, they can also look at the report related to this to see how this works. Any question?